everyone, this is Nikki here at Nikki Hearts Cards. I'm so excited to have you here on my channel. Today's video is part of a giveaway, so make sure you follow the instructions in the description. I'll tell you a little bit more about it as we go through here, but you can enter to win one of two $50 gift cards. So we're going to be looking at bold backgrounds today, and we're going to be using die cuts to create these. So we'll be featuring today the Honeybee Stamps Plumeria die cut, which is a brand new thing in this new release, and it is going to cover an entire A2 card. Now you could cut this apart if you wanted, but I'm going to keep it all together to show you how to use it, but also to show you how to spice it up and make it really bold and exciting like in my card today. So if you're coming along for the video hop today, make sure you watch the whole video. I'm going to tell you later in the video an emoji that you need to put in the comments to be entered, but you also need to hit like and subscribe. So let's get started. Most of the time when I'm using die cuts to create a project, I like to do ink blending on them, but it never hurts to start with a color so that you don't have to do quite as much ink blending. So I'm going to start with craft cardstock as my background. Now most of this is going to be covered up, but the stems are wooden, and so I'm going to get those stems ready and then we'll start applying some of the die cuts. A couple things I've learned about die sets that have lots of pieces. Start with the number of containers that you need. We have 4 different things, 4 different sets basically here that are going to be cut out besides the background. So see how they got those 4 different clumps? With Honeybee, each of those usually goes together. So I try to keep them separate because it helps me match up my flowers. So each of those pieces or dies, I separate them and I put those flowers that were with that specific die into a coffee filter. You could use a plastic bin, all kinds of things. Doesn't matter what it is, just keep them separated. So as you can see on this here, we have 3 different flowers and a set of leaves, and each of those are one of those clumps on the die cut. So I've separated this into 4 different things, and I've cut it once. You need to cut it multiple times, especially the small pieces, but referring to that diagram will help you because we need 2 of a flower, we need 3 of a flower, and we need 4 of the little bitty bud. And so that means that you will have to do some additional die cutting. I'm going to go ahead and start ink blending so that you can see the process. I did use Catherine Pooler over coffee. I also think that Distress Oxides would look great with this. I think I tried out Walnut Stain and that one looked really nice. So I'm just being not very careful with this, and you don't have to be. I'm just giving some different shading to all of the little sticks that are in between. So if you get it on the flowers, if you get it on the leaves, it doesn't really matter because that stuff's going to get covered up by your die cuts. So I'm just going around and getting all these little extra areas. I'm going to go in a little bit closer for you. And you could just leave this as craft colored. It just depends on what you want to do. I just know that I'm wanting to do very bold colors and I'm wanting to have a royal blue background. So I want to make sure that I can see this really well on the paper. So I'm just adding some depth, and I don't cover it all up exactly. I just make some darker and lighter spots. I'm not completely covering up the craft cardstock. All right, in total, this has 5 different flowers. We're going to start with the first 3, and that's because they're the bigger of the options. And so I'm going to, the big ones that just look like 5 petals there, they don't really have any layering pieces. They just have a lot of impression into them, which is nice. So they're pretty quick and easy. The bottom one does have those couple of layers, so it does take a little bit more effort. Now I want my Plumeria to be pink and have a yellowy orange center. So I'm starting with the lightest pink, which is Cotton Candy from Catherine Pooler, and you could use lots of other colors. I think this would look great in the Distress Oxides with either Kitsch Flamingo or Spun Sugar. I think you could do it with a lot of different colors, but I'm just using Catherine Pooler. It's one of my main ink blending inks, and so I'm going to just add this Cotton Candy all over these pieces. Now I'm going to use a couple different colors to make these really bold and bright. We're going to start with a lighter yellow color, which I'll pop up. And then I'm using the new blending brushes from Honeybee Stamps. They have this little circular end, so it makes adding that yellow right in the center of your flowers just so easy. Now, once I have the centers done in yellow, I'm going to use another small brush like this, and I'm going to use a darker pink to come from the outside of the petals in, and that just really defines the edge of the flower. I'm going to be using Party Dress, which is my favorite pink color of Catherine Pooler's. It's just a really good, bright, beautiful pink, and it looks great with cotton candy. So I'm just going to use this brush, start off of the flower, and come in so that I'm creating some kind of natural darkened ends of this flower. And I like to just build my color up. So you'll see that I'm coming back in on the same flower and just adding more, especially when you're starting out and you're not sure exactly what you're doing. It's always good to add one layer and then come back and start adding a little darker. And I just do it until I'm satisfied with what it looks like. Another tip that I have on die cuts like this is to go around and start working on all of them and then come back to the beginning because it does take ink a little while to dry. And sometimes it dries slightly different color than what you had, maybe not quite as bright. So adding those extra layers comes in handy there. It's why it's nice to have a lot of them already die cut and you can start working on your ink blending and going back and adding bits to it. And once I've gotten my ink done, then I want to do a little bit darker, kind of like an orange yellow in the middle, just to make that really pronounced. So I'm using that same small brush and I'm using a darker yellow color called Glitz. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on the leaves, but I'm going to tell you that I cut out 2 sets of leaves and I'm using 3 colors, which I've listed before, but this is Garden Party. This is just its main background, Lime Ricky, and then Grass Skirt. And what I did was fade towards the top. I wanted the middle or the stem of the leaves to be the darkest. So I'm just bringing my ink from the stems up. And then I'll add that darker color and we will put this together and I'll show you some tips and tricks on putting together this set. Okay, tip number 1 to putting this together, and I realized this pretty quickly, it doesn't tell you anywhere to do this, but you need to attach the leaves first, and that's so that they don't cover up any parts of your flowers, and maybe that's obvious to other people, but it took me a second to make sure I had it correct, and so I'm just going to match up these leaves to where they fit. Now, there is a diagram, it's on the Honeybee website, it'll do a layering guide, and it will list exactly where these go. So it's really nice to pick the shapes of leaves that are the same. Look at that diagram and see where they are located because they can be spread out all over this whole thing. And sometimes it's hard to figure out which leaf fits where. So make sure that you download those PDFs that have the layering guide on there for you. Now, here's how it looks with all the leaves in place. So let's start with our bigger flowers and we will figure out how this goes together. There's one flower that's the largest and it's the one I've got out right here. You can tell it's a little bit larger than these other two. So you can do these a couple of ways. My favorite way is to actually glue them down, but you do have a little lift from the leaves here. So if you wanted to do like a 1 millimeter raised up like foam tape, that would be fine. I did okay just gluing these directly down. That means that one side might stick up just a little bit, but it worked fine for me. Now, once you get these 3 bigger flowers down, everything else has a very specific shape. So it's pretty easy to figure out where the rest of your things are going to go. So once you've got your 3 larger items down, then really from here, it's pretty easy. I feel like the thing that you need the most help with is figuring out where the leaves go. And then after that, it's more about the layering of the dies than it is where to actually place them on this. Let's look at flower C on the layering guide. Okay, this is flower C. It has 3 parts. The bottom that we've already got on. This, I'm going to call it the infinity sign. It's the bottom 2 petals that stick out. And then it has one little extra piece to put on, and that's it to this flower. Now, don't be afraid to modify, okay? You see how there's a little stem coming out here that I've got as white? I did not realize that that part was green on the samples, and so I just decided I'm perfectly fine with the brown, so I'm gonna trim that off. Let me just show you how I modified it. So I just trimmed it off with scissors. You don't have to do that. You can do it the way that the guide says, which is to leave this green, but I just thought it was perfectly fine. Now, this is listed as flower D, and you can see it also has a very different shape. So, super easy. It has two pieces, and it's so easy to put together because the centerpiece just goes right in the middle. And we need 3 of these flowers for the design. So, make yourself 3 of them when you're cutting out. And then let's move to the last of the flowers. So when we get down to the really small bud here, it really helped that I kept this in a container. It's from one piece right here, and I kept it in that coffee filter so that I could keep these organized. And then I'm using a sticky mat to lay them out in order so that I can put them together. Now you could do the stem version, like I said, but I just decided not to use the part that had the stem because I wanted to keep all of my stems as the brown that I've already created. So we're going 3 pieces. If you look at the diagram, it may show 4 because it'll show that one with the stem. But like I said, I'm just doing these last 3 and you'll see it looks really amazing. And I'll zoom in so you can see the pieces. So you've got a middle piece for this, which lines up with that bottom area. And then you've got a smaller piece. And this one lines up not only with the bottom little point, but it lines up kind of along the side of the second piece. So when you're doing that, just look at those different things. You can see it on the diagram, but here it goes. You kind of need to this makes my hand shake just a little bit, but I had to line this little bottom part up, and then I'm lining it up along that edge, and it makes a cute little bud. Don't hesitate to use your fingers to line that up too. That's the nice thing about glue. Okay, let's put this all together. I'm going to call this our build montage. That's a copy from Mark Rober, who's an engineer on YouTube. Love watching his stuff with my kids. So we'll put all of these pieces together. It's pretty easy to figure out where they go once you've got the sizes. And look at how beautiful. Now let me show you the final card. Now, I couldn't pass up on the pearls that matched this so perfectly, so I put a little yellow center on each of these flowers. Now, if you don't do this with sentiments, I'm going to give you a little hint. You see how when they've got the clear acetate, you can just hold them over your project and see what fits the best? I am curious. Tell me in the comments, do you pick your sentiment before you do your card, or do you wait till after it's finished and just see what fits and seems to be most appropriate? I'm a wait till the whole card is done for the most part, unless I'm just looking for something specific, like I'm creating a sympathy card or I'm creating something specific. A lot of times I'll wait till the end and then pick out the best place for it. Now, I can't resist a spotlight effect, so I did take some Distress Oxide and black soot and kind of go around the edges of this beautiful blue cardstock just to make the center of those flowers. It just really makes a great focal point, so I did that real quick. So I glued down the flowers. I've got the pearls on there. I decided I just had to add a little bit of extra with this orange pencil. I used a piece of blue ribbon and wrapped it around the bottom. I happened to have this piece of blue ribbon that matched this cardstock so well. And then I cut the sentiment out with the dies and I heat embossed in white and then placed it on here. So it looks kind of like it blends into that blue background because I stamped it on blue. And I'll show you some close-up pictures so you can get ideas of how much of a difference all of these wonderful things that we did to the die cuts made. Make sure you don't forget to enter in the giveaway. I have popped up an emoji for you that you need to put down there and comment, like, subscribe, and here's some other videos on my channel. Have a great day. Bye.